Thanks, everyone. As Christian said, my name's Scott Oppmann, and I am part of a team in Esri Software Solutions Group that work on our state and local government solutions. And my goal this morning really is to kind of share with you what I would call our best kept secret. And you may be asking yourself, what is that best kept secret? And Christian alluded to this. You know, ArcGIS comes with hundreds of configurable apps that are available for you today. Then our goal is really to help you close the gap between what our core software does and what you do in cities, counties, and state agencies. And I want to take 30 minutes or so today to kind of share with you the work we've been doing and why we're doing it. And I'm going to focus in on the state and local market, but know that we're also building solutions in utilities, defense and intel, and even starting a team working in the commercial and business sector. So I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted by the barrage every night on what's going on at the federal level. Because let's be honest with ourselves, most of us interact with government at the local level. It's where our kids are educated. When you pick up the phone and call 911, it's the local police and fire department that's going to respond. And ultimately, the decisions we make at the local level are influenced by land use, policy decisions, and ultimately quality of life decisions that we make at the local level and state level in many cases as well. And while, local governments certainly have, come out of what I would call the dark times. I'm from Southeast Michigan, and I like to say we're kind of at the sharp end of the spear when it comes to the economic downturn. And while we've seen, things get better at the local level, certainly of budgets, there still are obviously big issues we're tackling and big issues we're wrestling with. Everything from how do we manage the aging infrastructure that we're all dealing with at massive scales. How do we attract and retain talent when we're losing 30 to 35% of our workforce over the next couple of years? What do we do to mitigate the demands as urbanization continues to occur? And ultimately, lots of people are working on how do we revitalize the neighborhoods we have so we can maximize the tax base and ultimately provide high-quality services and attract the people, the businesses to our communities. And so with that backdrop, Jack may have mentioned this yesterday, but actually our company was almost founded essentially on the work we do with cities and counties. And if you look at state local market, it's one of our largest and longest standing markets that we have here at Esri. And cities, counties, state agencies have been using our technology for decades to solve really complicated challenges and to use the geographic information and geographic technology to address new challenges in their community. And as we've looked at and talked to different cities, counties, and state agencies, what we've seen is a kind of what I would call common problems or patterns emerging in those implementations. And some of these, may resonate with you. We've seen implementations limited to maybe one or a few departments, right? Maybe your GIS implementation started in your land records group because it's part of your property mapping and never really blossomed into other departments. Or perhaps you're a state agency and using it in the DNR and natural resources area to help promote the recreation opportunities and licensing opportunities in your community, but it never really grew beyond that. So we see incomplete implementations kind of at the business level and services that are leveraging the technology, and we also see incomplete technology implementations where they really aren't leveraging the full capabilities that we have in our platform now. And as you saw over the last day and a half, right, ArcGIS continues to evolve. And those implementations are impacted, by resource constraints, either organizationally or budgetarily, and as a result, what we find, quite frankly, is either GIS professionals or as organizations, because of some of those constraints and challenges we have, right, there's very little time to really use our muscles, so to speak, on the advanced GIS capabilities that really add value and drive higher returns on investment in the organization. So while the state and local market and the community has been using our technology for a long time, the actual software they've been using has evolving quite a bit. I bet if I asked most of you, what is your definition of ArcGIS, you would say it's the desktop software we use to manage the geographic information in our organization. We have servers that we house that information on and make it available to users. But quite frankly, the software and the platform has evolved beyond that today, and there's a whole host of additional capabilities that are available to you. And with the advent of ArcGIS organizations and our software as a service called ArcGIS Online, the geo-enabled systems that you just saw an example of with ArcGIS Indoors. We have a whole host of content. And what I want to talk about today is a whole set of solution templates or ArcGIS solutions that are available for you as ArcGIS users. And as I said, our mission really is to help you take this technology stack and apply it to the business that you have in state and local government and the other markets we serve. So we provide solutions in a whole range of offerings, right? We work with many of you every day on projects. Maybe they're custom projects, maybe they're projects we've done in other places, right, to develop solutions for your organizations. We take your business needs, we apply our technology and data to that, and ultimately deliver a set of ArcGIS configurations or new capabilities in your organization. And as Christian said, about 7 or 8 years ago, we started thinking about why are we doing these same projects over and over and over again in an organization? Why does every city have to build a public notification app? Why can't every city have an executive dashboard or a public engagement offering that takes the best practices that we've seen in cities and counties all across the country and brings it to the masses? And so we started developing a set of solution templates that are just shipped with the product. And we have a team here at Esri that's working every day with cities, counties, state agencies, and other domains to take the best practices, to take the business processes you have, develop configurations of ArcGIS, and ship them with the product so everyone can benefit from it. And ultimately, we know that in some cases, you guys may need additional capacity, additional expertise. So we take those capabilities that are in the product, we bundle them with the implementation and enablement activities required to do a project in your organization, and we provide them as bundles that you can purchase and really use to kind of reduce the time to market and maximize the skills and resources you have in your organization. So today I'm really going to focus in on the solution templates that we ship with the product, right? Our mission is all about helping you maximize the investment you're making in our software. And you've seen glimpses of these throughout the last day and a half, and I really want to take you through how you can what's available and what you can leverage in your organization. So ultimately what you'll find is that there's a whole collection of maps and apps, and we've talked a lot about the idea of a map for this, an app for that over the last day and a half. But ultimately we have a whole collection of useful maps and apps that are organized around the work you do in city government, state government, county agencies, and they're part of the product. They ship with the software, they're supported with the software, and ultimately, they help you really close that gap between what you need and what's in our core product. So one aspect of the work we do is all about closing that gap. It's about building relevant technology for you that you can leverage in your organization and you can use to jumpstart your projects and your implementations. But the other aspect of this work that's just as humbling, quite frankly, to us is the community of users we're building to help us do a couple key things. One, you can actively drive what we build and what we ship in these solution offerings. I like to say it's a participatory sport. What you put into it is what you'll get out of it. And the other thing you can do as a part or a member of that community is that you can actually connect with peers who are implementing the solutions we have, who are thinking about some of the same common business problems, and share those experiences and share those best practices. And ultimately, collectively, we can try to address these problems in an effective way. And then the final piece of it, which I mentioned a minute ago, right, is a whole network of Esri services and partner offerings that help you maximize the expertise you have, add additional capacity, reduce the time to market, and really help you drive out these capabilities in your organization. So as a team, we're really laser focused on a couple key objectives for you. We want to help you kind of expand your reach and drive a new set of capabilities in your organization. Gone are the days of measuring success by the number of servers and desktops we manage in our organization, right? It's all about the impact we're having on the organization. And so we want to provide for you a standard set of capabilities that you can just deploy throughout your organization. And by doing that, right, you'll be able to improve your service delivery, maximize the investment you're making in our software, and ultimately demonstrate innovation in a whole variety of ways. So that's one of our primary focuses. The other thing that we've heard from lots of cities, counties, and state agencies is that you spend an inordinate amount of time on what I would call the fixed labor, right? The supporting the systems you have and maintaining the systems you have. And as you develop new software, custom development, right, what happens to that fixed labor cost? It just continues to go up. The county I came from before coming to Esri years ago, we would spend I probably shouldn't say this, I won't tell you who it was, right? We'd spend sometimes nearly 80% of our year on the fixed labor costs because we had done big system implementations, we had done custom development, and we really had very little time for innovation in our organization. And so for us, what we want to do is really help you reduce that fixed labor cost, right? We support these solutions that we provide with ArcGIS. We make sure they work with each release of ArcGIS. We make sure they take advantage of all the new capabilities. And we try to offload that responsibility from your shoulders and allow you to focus on the unique things in your organization. The other thing we do is try to help you demonstrate how you can unlock all the geospatial information in your organization, use it in a whole variety of ways. You saw some really good examples of that over the last day or so. And ultimately, we know we can't do this alone. It is a very participatory sport. We want engagement. We engage with cities, counties, and state agencies to work on these solution offerings. We want your feedback. Your feedback impacts what we ship in the product. And as you provide us that feedback, what you'll find is those best practices in the industry tradecraft that every one of us start our projects with is just built into the product, and it makes it easier for you to get started. So let's talk a minute about what this means in your organization. And I could show you a couple different domains, but I'm going to use local government just as an example, right? And when I say local government, my perspective, that's counties, cities, and other municipalities, villages, townships, essentially state down. And what you'll see is that the solutions are organized around kind of functions in this case, a local government, right? I don't want to say they're business units, right, because that varies from place to place, but you guys would all recognize these functions in your organization. And what we do is look specifically at, what are some of the key workflows, what are some of the key capabilities that every one of these business units are trying to perform. Some might call these initiatives or activities or programs, but it's ultimately how can we apply GIS, location-based technology and data, to the business problem. And ultimately what you get is a whole set of ArcGIS configurations that are designed around specific users in those organizations and work they have to do. And it helps you organize the data, the maps, and the application configurations for those specific needs. And so this list may look kind of daunting, right? There's a lot of different capabilities we provide. There's a lot of specific ArcGIS configurations. And the other thing I'll point out about this is that these things are all designed to work together as a system. So you can deploy one or more of them, or you can deploy the entire collection. And over the last day or so, we've actually shown you a few of these. And actually, the Microsoft guys were very humble enough to do the demo for one of our solutions a few minutes ago. They showed you guys the property condition survey. So let's talk for a minute about the work we've been doing to stabilize neighborhoods. How many of you are from a city? How many of you are working hard to revitalize neighborhoods? Getting rid of blight, getting rid of code enforcement issues, right? That's a challenge that everyone, it's not unique to the Midwest, I promise you. All right? But that's something that cities do all over the place. And so we've been working with cities, New Orleans, Kansas City, Kansas, Detroit, and others to build a set of ArcGIS configurations that help you do that. The first thing it starts with is the solution that Microsoft showed a few minutes ago. That's the property condition survey. One of the key challenges we had, cities across the country were trying to find teams of people to go out and just give me a good assessment of what's going on in my neighborhoods. Where do I have blight? Right? I can't rely on code enforcement. It's inherently biased. So I need to go out and do a comprehensive canvas. They'd hire 60, 70 students or get a bunch of volunteers, and they'd go out with surveys and canvass the community. It'd take them maybe a year to do it in a big city, and then what happens next year when conditions change in that neighborhood? They'd have to start all over. So New Orleans came to us with a unique idea. What if I can just drive the city, capture my own street-level photos, process those photos, and use members of my community to actually help us score the properties? And out of that came a solution we have called Photo Survey. But with the advent of machine learning, we knew we could go further, right? We knew we could go further. And so now what the property condition survey allows you to do is use consumer-grade cameras, capture your own street-level photos, assign those photos to a property, and ultimately grade that with machine learning technology. And now I can just focus in my work on, a very specific set of properties. And that's machine learning technology that every one of you can use now, right? And so out of those ideas that New Orleans and a few other cities had, every city, every county, anyone who's trying to tackle neighborhood stabilization can use that. And that property condition survey solution fits into a whole suite of offerings that help you then round out other challenges in that area. Maybe I want to look at neighborhood conditions holistically across my community and begin to model where neighborhoods are tipping in a positive or negative direction. Maybe I have actual gentrification issues that are happening, right? I've got a whole bunch of discrete reinvestment in specific neighborhoods, and that's actually driving existing people out, and I want to understand where that's happening. Perhaps I implemented a demolition program, and I need to understand how many properties I'm knocking down, where are we knocking them down, and am I getting complaints? Blight status allows you to do that, and demolition tracker, that solution allows you to share that information with the public so you can clearly articulate how much money are we spending on demolition and where are we doing that work. And then all of that comes together in another solution called the mortgage counseling locator. Let's keep people in their homes, right? Let's help them find mortgage counseling and services that are available to them to help maybe change the financial situation in that home and get them counseling help before they do that. And then ultimately, we've got a solution that helps with the daily code enforcement stuff too, because we know blight is a thing that every city deals with on a day-to-day basis, and they do that through their code enforcement activities. So through that example, right, you can see that you can pick and choose any one of these solutions and drive it out in your organization to meet a specific need, or you can deploy the entire set of solutions to really help with a comprehensive stabilization program in your community. The other thing I'll point out is that many of our solutions really help you cut across these kind of vertical business units in your organization, right, and help you tackle more strategic initiatives in your organization. That could be performance management, that could be the opiate epidemic, homelessness, which we've talked about yesterday, and even some of the work we've been doing around resiliency, which is certainly a hot topic in many communities across the country. If I were to show you a similar diagram for state government, it would look very similar, right? The difference might be, okay, what are the business units or agencies within a state government, and what are the kind of key workflows and key organizations? And I'm sure most of you also work with, the public safety agencies in your community, and so we have a set of solutions that cut across state and local government and help you address emergency management needs, fire service, law enforcement, even resilience. Like the ones I showed you for the non-safety areas, they're organized around kind of key workflows and ultimately provide you a set of ArcGIS configurations that help you address preparedness activities and emergency management response activities. Perhaps you want to also look at pre-incident planning in your fire department. There's a whole host of capabilities there for you as well, too. So across state and local government, you've probably got 200 to 250 different configurations of ArcGIS that are available and you can take advantage of today in your organization. And you can also take these solutions and configure them to meet specific needs in your organization. So that's a quick overview of and some context around the work we're doing. What I want to do now is just kind of show you some of these solutions. And as I said, you've gotten a glimpse of a few of them over the last day and a half, and I want to drill in and just give you a sense of some of the work we're doing. All right, so let's switch over here. So a few minutes ago, Rachel did a really good job talking about the work that Southlake's doing around performance management, and you saw a glimpse of a performance management dashboard. And that performance management dashboard actually came out of a configuration of the solution that we have for performance management. And this solution was developed in partnership with Austin and other communities across the country. And essentially what the performance management solution allows you to do is deploy a series of key performance dashboards around these strategic outcomes or objectives you define for your community. And those outcomes could be organized around economic opportunity, safety, as Rachel showed you earlier, and ultimately what you get is a very focused dashboard that helps you organize your geographic content and share those key performance metrics that you define for those strategic outcomes. And this is a configuration of the performance management solution around economic opportunity and affordability. And what's important to point out about this solution is that it really provides a geographic lens into those performance metrics, right? Many of you have probably deployed or have or seen performance management dashboards in the past, and they're just a series of metrics and charts right on a website. But what this solution really allows you to do is not only see key performance metrics holistically for your community. In this case, we're looking at some sample data from Naperville, Illinois, but it also allows me perhaps to, if I'm interacting with a council member, let's say, and they're concerned about what's going on in their district, I can use geography to provide a very specific lens on those metrics. And now I can begin to see how the city's performing, how my district's performing, and ultimately begin to understand what policy changes do we need to make to drive those indicators. And each of these indicators really help me understand how we're performing currently, whether I'm on target, what this may look like historically, and they give you an opportunity to describe how that metric is ultimately driving, being used to drive either changes in policies you're making in your organization or initiatives that you're undertaking to improve that metric. And so as you move through each of these individual metrics, or maybe each of the individual strategic outcomes, you'll see that geography is really being used to communicate your performance at your community level and ultimately at even finer geographies as well too. So one aspect of this solution is how do I design and deploy a set of dashboards that are used maybe by internal stakeholders. Key leadership in my organization, council members, board of commissioners, others that are really interested in the strategic outcomes for the community and the metrics we're measuring. But another major aspect of this solution offering is how do you communicate your performance to the public and share that information in a very focused way. And so with the performance management solution, you get an Arcgis Hub Site that allows you to do just that. And you can see that this Hub Site's designed to really help you organize and communicate the work you're doing on those strategic outcomes, describe a bit about the work you're doing in performance management, gather feedback from the community on specific outcomes you're measuring, market the agencies you're partnering with, and even share the authoritative data you're using to drive those metrics. And citizens can come in very quickly, explore the strategic outcome they're interested in. And so in this case, you're going to see it's a real focus configuration of that dashboard I showed previously. And it's going to present to me at a glance those performance metrics that I'm interested in. And hopefully we don't lose power today or the internet. One day, right? But you can see it's very similar in view. I've just abstracted the map out of that. I can see those key performance metrics I'm monitoring for public safety. As a citizen, I can see how the city's performing as a whole, and I can come in and say, you know what, I live in the downtown neighborhood. Tell me how my neighborhood's performing as well too. All right, so it really provides and brings a sense of place to the performance management activities you have going on in your community and allows you to communicate that to key stakeholders inside your organization and ultimately the public as well. So that's the performance management solution. Let me move on to some other work we've been doing. Every community I've talked to is talking about how do they maximize the investments they're making in public infrastructure. Unless you're adopting new millages or new funding sources, right, we're all trying to do what we can with the scarce resources we have and the rising cost of infrastructure improvements. So we worked with several communities to develop a whole suite of ArcGIS configurations that help you prioritize capital projects across the diverse assets you are managing, even engage the public potentially in that process, work with external stakeholders, and ultimately share your capital plan in a very map-based view, right? All of you probably have a PDF that represents your capital improvement plan. It shares all the projects, it's a couple hundred pages, right? And it's very hard for people to understand where are those projects occurring and what ultimately is going to be done. So we have a set of solutions that help you with that. We also have a set of solutions that once you fund those projects, how do I track the schedule, quality, and cost of the work that's going on there? And one of those solutions is called a capital project dashboard. And this allows internal stakeholders inside their organization to really get a sense for what does my current project portfolio look like and how are these projects performing. So perhaps I just want to come in and take a look at the few transportation projects we have ongoing. I can quickly see how many projects I have. I can look at a specific project here and understand at a glance as we're doing our project briefing, whether we're on budget, behind, or on schedule, what kind of some key stats for that project are, and ultimately where are we in the construction life cycle. Very, very simple way for us to communicate that information to our constituents. This dashboard's designed specifically for internal stakeholders. We also have a solution that you could use that leverages the same content and share that information with the public as well too, because we know that's an important part of it. The other thing we see as a common pattern across many communities is that you want to really help leverage the crowd or the public to help you prioritize the operational work activities that you have in your organization. One of our more popular solutions is one called Citizen Problem Reporter, and it looks a little funny here on the screen, That's because it's a responsive web application that's designed really for smartphones and devices in the field. And Citizen Problem Reporter is very similar to what you may recognize as a 311 system or a problem reporting system in your community. But what it does is leverage location as a primary way to organize those reports. Many of you may have seen or have problem reporting sites on, or problem reporting applications on your site, and they're very text-based things, right? Type in your address, type in where this problem's happening. This leverages location and allows the public to quickly report problems. So in this case, let's go in and just report. Roads are a really kind of important topic for us in the Midwest. I can come in, I can see all the reports that have already been made. This is a way for us to really try to help promote people collaborating on existing reports so you don't get 85 reports of the same pothole. I could say this is a really important thing, or I could comment on an existing report as well too. But more importantly, it's a very simple and straightforward way for citizens in the community to report a problem they're seeing in the community. Big pothole on road. Right, I can put my name in. I'm going to put in just my email address real quick. Oh, come on, type. Right, I could assign a photo. I can use my current location like you'd expect, or I could just poke on the map and quickly report that. So as I said, this is a responsive app. It could be a destination on your website. It could be something you share and people use from their mobile devices. And ultimately, it's a way for you to get a real simple and straightforward intake mechanism for those problems. But the Problem Reporter solution also comes with configurations of ArcGIS for folks inside the organization, right? So many of you probably have call takers or operations managers who are watching those reports come in and ultimately need to triage those reports to the appropriate field staff to get those problems resolved. So a Citizen Problem Manager allows me to do just that. It allows me to see all the reports that are coming in. I can see that pothole that we just reported. I can then assign this to an appropriate staff. Let's say, you know what, I'm going to take action on it. We're going to cut to the chase and say I assigned it to Public Works. They resolved the issue, and it was resolved 2 days from now, let's say, right? It was resolved on Saturday. They'd spent some overtime. Patched pothole. And this could be used to then triage that work to your maintenance management systems. There's a whole variety of ways you can integrate it into your larger workflows. Ultimately, what I want to show you is that this is tracking all of the work activity you're performing. If I went back to that Problem Reporter app, search for my problem report, I could see the resolution. And more importantly, you can see that once the report's completed, we recently added the ability to send a satisfaction survey. So we talked a lot about public engagement over the last day and a half, and one of the things we're really trying to do is help you kind of complete that public engagement process. Share information with people through open data and real focused apps. Engage them through immersive apps and use them as a sensor to provide you feedback. Prioritize that work activity. When you complete that work activity, now gather their feedback. And ultimately what this does is take some information from that report and send me a link to a satisfaction survey that we've helped you with. And this satisfaction survey can be completed by the person who submitted the report. And ultimately, when you're done, you'll see that you can then begin to analyze those results. The final piece of this solution I want to show you real quickly is the Citizen Problem Dashboard. Once again, I'm an operations manager or someone inside the organization who's keeping track of all these reports that are coming in. I need, at a glance, an understanding of how we're doing. And these key performance indicators are kind of showing me in a kind of red-green dashboard way, are we keeping up with the problems that are being reported? Am I getting more new reports than what I'm resolving? And not only can I see information at a glance, I can begin to dig in, obviously, to the specific reports and begin to look at, how many reports we got last month. And ultimately, I can also now begin to see that's those satisfaction surveys, right? And now I can begin to not only see, tactically, how did we resolve the issue, but ultimately, well, how does the public feel we're doing? And what's important about this is start to think about now how geography can be used in your response activities with this sentiment or satisfaction. Now I can begin to look at from one maintenance district to the other, do we have higher satisfaction ratings? I can begin to share this information with the public. Oops, I forgot my clicker. Won't be able to get far without that, will I? Right, and I can begin to see how satisfaction's performing geographically across the community. And so it really allows me to take those satisfaction surveys that I'm sure many of you are already doing and provide a geographic lens to that and really begin to understand, do you have equity across your community? Are you getting good feedback from the responses you're providing? So that was just a few of the solutions we have. And as I said, we could spend a lot of time just digging into the specific use cases and problems we're trying to help you solve. And hopefully you can see, as you begin to explore the solutions that are available, you'll see that, right, the common pattern provides, right? There's a set of tools there that help you manage the authoritative data, help you share that information with key stakeholders, analyze that information, and ultimately measure your performance as well, too. So I talked a lot about the technology we're developing, but as I mentioned, it's more than just the technology. The community is a big part of this work. Everything I showed you today is available on our solution site. That is your destination for these solution offerings, and we continuously evolve what's available. The other thing that's interesting about the work we've been doing is we actually have a whole community of users that are meeting monthly to share the solutions we're building, and many of your communities are probably members of this virtual meetup community. We have a couple thousand people in the state and local government community that are meeting every month to share experiences using the solutions, to drive what we're building in the product. And so I just want to emphasize again, right, it is a very participatory sport. You guys have the ability to influence what we're building, to be able to share problems with us that you're trying to solve, and ultimately connect with your peers to address those common problems. The other thing that's important that I want to leave you with before just wrapping up is that this solution offering, or these solution offerings, are constantly evolving. About every 4 months, you'll see a new release and a whole new set of existing. We'll either make enhancements to existing solution offerings, we'll add new capabilities to the solution as well too. We just had a big release in March, and one of the key areas we were focused on is elections. How many of you are losing sleep already about the 2020 elections? Many of you, right? I remember when I was at Oakland County, it was like all hands on deck, 24 hours a day, right? That clerk system couldn't go down. We need to make sure we get people to the right polling places. We need to be able to share election results immediately after they're tabulated. So we've been working hard with communities all across, state and local agencies all across the country to give you a set of ArcGIS solutions that really help you round out and leverage location-based capabilities on election night to make sure you get people to the right polling places and voting centers. And really help you kind of augment the existing systems that are there, because we certainly recognizing that you guys use, tabulation systems and other systems, voter registration systems as well. And you'll see some other work we're doing to help promote outdoor activities at the state and local level, to get people back, I like to say, out from behind Fortnite and back out into the field, so to speak, right? And we continue to evolve our public safety solutions as well, too. So ultimately, in my opinion, you can't buy a smart community. You can't go out and just say, hey, I want that, right? It really takes a lot of intentional effort that you're making in your community. And I hope you'll see that, by implementing a lot of the solutions that we've developed, you're inherently adopting a lot of the traits that we all are striving for as a smart community. The solutions that we've developed with ArcGIS will help you make data-driven decisions. They'll help you engage the public. They'll allow you to leverage the real-time data that you have in your organization. And through the process of leveraging the investment you're making in ArcGIS and the location-based data you have in your organization, by default, you'll arrive as a smart community and ultimately be able to leverage all the capabilities that you've invested in your community. So thanks a lot for giving me a few minutes to give you an update on what we're doing. And certainly, Christian, I can turn it back to you.